Fundora's got something to say about all of this. He's a fucking problem for everybody.
Yeah, he's definitely matured since the Brian Mendoza knockout loss. He's had some good experiences fighting Tim Tszyu, things like that. Really matured into a good champion.
Who would you pick, Virgil or Fundora?
Vergil Ortiz. How about
I've
you?
I've tend to think the same thing, but um, you can't sleep on Fundora, man.
I'm not. Yeah, I don't want to sleep on Fundora because he is his bones are like super dense and he could close your eyes shut with a couple of shots. But I've always been a big advocate for the Vergil Ortiz power jab. And I think in that fight, when you're fighting a guy like Fundora, that jab could gain him a lot of real estate and push Fundora backwards. I don't really see Fundora as the kind of guy that can fight off his back foot. He's never really shown that in his career. Even though he's learning how to fight taller, he's not a guy that fights off his back foot.
I could just see Virgil though, getting pelted a little bit, and then getting where he wants to get, mid range, closer to Fundora, and then still just getting eaten up in his high guard, uppercuts, busting him up, and but at the same time, like Tim Tszyu in both fights, even the fight where Fundora was pretty decisive and stopped him in 7 rounds, he was still getting his head flung around in spots by Tszyu whenever Tszyu got where he needed to get. And if Ortiz can get the majority of the fight in there, he has faster hands,
Mm.
hits hard. Uh, Fundora's defense isn't really that. His offense and his length is his defense. It's not like he has this great parrying ability or any real head movement. So yeah, I favor Virgil and I favor Ennis over Fundora, but Fundora is a problem, bro. He could conceivably beat both of them and surprise everybody, and just in retrospect, be like the guy is 6'6", and once he used his height a little bit more, and he still got that vicious uppercut on the inside, he's still mean. He still has power and leverage, and
Yeah,
yo,
it was
he
it
was
was
just too
game over.
much. Yeah, right. It was game over. So, but yeah, it feels like the finals are going to wind up being Virgil and Boots at some point.
Mm. Okay. Uh, I wanted to take on this, Sean, because I know we do got Tim Tszyu, Earl Spence coming up. I have this theory. I don't know if I believe it as much as I used to now with them fighting at 160, but I genuinely do feel like if Earl Spence does beat uh, Tim Tszyu, that PBC will make a play for Sebastian Fundora to fight Earl Spence because they did face off in the ring, and that's a big money fight, and it's something that Samson has alluded to in the past. So, what do you think of that scenario playing itself out? Fundora versus Earl Spence in 2026.
I shared a part of my interview with Fundora last week in Hollywood, where I said, "Hey man, if they try to give you Spence and Charlo, will you put your foot down and insist with your team, with your company, to make Virgil or Boots instead? Because ultimately, it's your reputation on the line.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And if you don't care about that, then fine. If it's just about, but Sebastian doesn't strike me as that kind of guy. Even though he vacated the WBO to Xander Zayas, and even though they kind of had a ball game about negotiations with Terrence Crawford, who says he was interested to fight him, but they wanted to get Spence, who came in the ring after the Zoo upset 2 years ago. And but still, Fundora is a G. You know what I mean? I really think he's a fearless fighter who would fight anybody. But he's also a loyal, and I don't mean this bad, but obedient kind of fighter. His dad is loyal to Samson. He's going to do what his father says, and his
He
father,
he trusts his team. He
he
trusts his
trusts his
team.
team. He trusts his team. But I think now that he has entered his real prime and confidence is riding high and he's improved as a fighter, I think, it's at some point the man has to take control of his own destiny.
Thousand
And so
percent.
he said in my interview with him, yeah, man, it made us look like punks that were shooting down these fights right away. And I don't like that. And I told
Mm.
Samson I don't like that. And he's like, I could do the Charlo and Spence fight and make good money, but it doesn't hold the weight that it would fighting Virgil or Boots. So I think those are the fights that should happen next after my mandatory. And then I asked him, I said, is it like I go, you have a bunch of animals up there in the mountains in California. Is it like while you got this edge and this belief and you're in your prime and you're starting to peak now as a fighter, would it be like domesticating you if they feed you, no offense to a Spence or a Charlo, but they feed you puppy chow and don't let you rumble with the big dogs? Can that take away your edge? Can that, you know what I mean,
Dull
deteriorate
the
your
blade.
edge? Dull
Yeah.
the blade, eye of the tiger, whatever fucking cliche you want to use that is applicable here.
Yeah.
And he said, yeah, 100%. So, let's see if that happens. And I don't know. I've always had a feeling one way or the other we're going to wind up with Vergil and Fundora because Golden Boy and PBC have been doing fights.
Well, and now they're all under the same roof with the zone, so all the chess pieces are in place.
Right. So I don't know. I just got a feeling in the next 12 months we'll get Vergil and Fundora, and Eddie will. Eddie is showing his commitment to Boots by talking up the Josh Kelly fight. I think in seeing his real American star coming to fruition in Boots, I think if he didn't quite see it that way, if there was any hesitancy that Boots could really become the guy for him in America he's been looking for since he came here, I think he'd be like, let me get a couple more paydays for my fellow Brit here, Josh Kelly. But now that he thinks Boots really is that guy, he sees it. He's like, yeah, Josh, do us the solid, bro. Get in the ring. I'll pay you good. I'll get the zone to break you off something. Maybe we'll have it in your backyard. But you got to come off that belt from my premier client right now, Jaron Ennis. And then if Vergil, and then, Jaron's saying, like, I want belts, like, and he's getting some get back, big time people in business and boxing and sports and, again, in business, any industry, they can be petty. And him and his father are taking their chance to be a little petty and say, get the fuck to the back of the line, Vergil. And
they're well within the rights to do that with him because they had the deal in place. Even Boots aside, Vergil was doing that with Xander. They were trying to make the Xander fight. He won and he fought Madrimov, and see how that ended up for him. So,
So, Vergil has to land the green belt. The green belt is an equalizer. No matter how much stupid shit the WBC does, until Zuffa ever pulls off their whole original plan, which they seem to be deviating from right now, maybe out of necessity or they're just buying time until they get to the real full plan.
It's like a trial period.
Then the green belt holds a lot of weight. And it could be an equalizer to Ennis having 2 or 3 belts to his 1.
Yeah.
But he's going to have to walk through hell to get it.
Well, Fundora.
It's going to be a hellacious night, win or lose. And
to your point about, I'm going to cut you off, Sean, but to your point about Fundora, I had my like the whole impression we get about Fundora being overly trustworthy of his team and those kind of things. When we finally got around him, when he fought Thurman, back in March, I remember as he was coming out the ring, our good buddy Marcus Haynes from Fight Hub, he had asked him some question. I forgot what he said as he got out the ring, sweat all over his face, and he said it from his chest. I'm the king of 154, and he really believed it. So I think he's at that stage of his career where the confidence is there, the physical abilities are there, and I'm going to give Fundora the benefit of that. I think he will step up to the plate when push comes to shove and make these fights happen because he wants to prove that he really is the man at 154.
I agree. And our guy Chiquian said, but is that really so? Sean, Matchroom is the zone's main baby. Indeed, they are. They own a 40% stake in Matchroom USA. I think DAZN wants this division to run through Jaron Ennis for sure. But while Jaron is seemingly headed towards Josh Kelly, who fights next weekend. And I know Fundora has a mandatory in the coming months. So to Chiquian's point, there's definitely a universe where Eddie and Matchroom lean on Team Fundora to say, hey, like, we want undisputed right here, right now, right? But I think if you begin the framework of getting Vergil and Fundora over the finish line, if you can get a deal in place between PBC and Golden Boy, that's why I said team, I'm trying to help you, Vergil. I'm putting the onus on your team. Get to work. Okay, lawsuit's done. Get to work. Like, get that Fundora fight done. you have a little bit of breathing room while Eddie is moving Boots towards Josh Kelly. So
Mm.
while they're putting that together, you need to put together Fundora, and you could probably still get away with getting a tune-up, a comeback fight in before the year's over, and then have something settled with Fundora for the first quarter of next year. If you know, or since it's boxing, the first half of next
Yeah,
year.
yeah.
You know, that's what I'm saying. And again, I think because the relationship between the two promoters, you've seen a lot more PBC Golden Boy fights like Barrios and Ryan and Benavidez Zerto in just the last couple months than you've seen PBC Matchroom or even Golden Boy Matchroom. So that's what I think. I think they can get it. I think they can get it done, and that's on Rick to have some redemption and make up for the momentum he's lost as fighter. Deliver the Fundora fight.
1,000%, Sean.
So wanting to match the Spence shit, with Fundora, I think Spence might win next Saturday. It's really hard for me to pick that
Mm.
fight.
I'm not
But
even picking.
I don't really want to pick either. It's like I don't know. I
No
think
one, nobody does. Not even Spence.
I'll give some people credit. There's some people who just know on a
Yeah.
fight-to-fight basis. They know,
Yeah.
and they will be proven right.
Yeah.
But either Rick Glazer or some Errol Spence believers will be proven right,
Correct.
one way or the other. But I like there is a scenario where those options next week are taken off the table entirely. That
Yeah.
Jermel Charlo, despite what he says, who hasn't fought at 154 in 3 years, can't make 154 anymore. So that takes
Correct.
that off the table. And then if Errol Spence loses, that's taken off the table. So in theory, while they want, Fundora to fight these PBC fighters that have lost their stock or have faded respectfully as former top shelf champions, but not what they once were.
Yeah.
Those could be off the table in like 7 days, 8 days, if Zoo beats Spence anyways.
Sean, take a look at these reaches that Next Gen Combat just put in the chat. So you got Fundora pushing at 80, Vergil pushing 70, and that's half an inch shorter than what Tim Tszyu brought to the table at 70 and a half. So how much of Vergil's lack of reach do you think that causes him against the elites at 54?
Um, Again, I think it gives Boots an edge because Boots has a 4-inch reach advantage on him, and Boots has an excellent jab out of both stances
Correct.
that he can level change with and double up. Vergil can do those things too, but with a shorter reach and fighting more out of the high guard, while Boots is athletic and creative enough to fight with one hand lower than the other, and that gives his vision better. And then he's got the upper body fluidity to go with it, even though we know Boots gets caught too. Not perfect defensively, but he has more looks defensively. I think that's a problem. That's part of why I would favor Boots to beat Vergil. And then against Fundora, it's a problem for everybody. And Fundora does have a better straight left hand. He has a better jab, but I still think
The right uppercut.
the left uppercut.
Oh yeah.
And the right uppercut. You're right, but I think it's the left uppercut's the real moneymaker with the backhand. But I still think Vergil could get to the distance he wants to get to. I saw Tszyu. Well, Tszyu had to sell out and even leave his feet sometimes. But however Tim Tszyu did it, whose reach is even shorter than Vergil, isn't as fast as Vergil, doesn't have an authoritative jab like Vergil. He was able to clock Fundora despite that massive reach and height disadvantage with some big shots, especially in the last round before he got stopped. So I think Vergil will be able to do that too. And yeah, I mean, it's a great fight. Again, I could see Vergil getting eaten up, getting to where he wants to get to, and then getting hurt by left uppercuts. Fundora's a good combination puncher once he gets you hurt. He is. Yeah, So
Somebody brought it up in the chat earlier that Vergil scar tissue. He scars like real easily up in there.
Yeah.
I remember like 5 years ago when I went to the Maurice Hooker fight over there in Fort Worth, and Hooker didn't land. I don't think he landed that much leather on Vergil. I mean, he had some moments here and there in spots, but I remember Vergil, like right here, had a lot of scar tissue. I always used to see him scarred up no matter who he fights. So I do think that's in play as well. That's a big factor.
You got to think is part of it being more of a high guard guy and blocking a lot of shots, but it's
Your glove gets pushed into
stretching
your
up
face.
again. Right.
Yeah.